Hey guys, this is Jeff Conti with JC Knives. I'm going to start a video series called Knife Sharpening 101. And what I want to talk about today is the different knife grinds and the different knife steels. Please bear in mind this is not an exhaustive listing. I'm just going through the basics to give you some ideas, hence the title 101. Okay. So, in terms of knife grinds, we talk about a hollow grind, and the basic idea is that the hollow grind, you can see, is got a curvature to it. It reflects light in a very curved type of way. It's not flat, and so that's called a hollow grind, where we actually hold the knife up against a round wheel, and the round wheel cuts this hollow shape. Okay. You can still see on a knife that's been Cerakoted that the grind is still hollow, but just because it's Cerakoted, you can still tell the difference. Anyway, some boning knives for a variety of meat processing, they have a hollow grind, and I'll explain that in a minute why the knives have the different shapes that they have. Some of the knives you've seen are probably, rather large Bowie types, and you can see that this is a very flat grind. There's no hollow to it. It doesn't reflect light other than across the flat surface, and you can see the edge that's been ground onto it. That's a flat grind. It's very thick steel. And then you have the Scandi grind, and of course you have a lot of flat and very little bit of actually ground steel. And when you sharpen this type of grind, you're actually sharpening the entire grind. You're not going to have a secondary bevel. So it's not a hollow grind, it's a flat grind, just like the Bowie knife was, with a large flat area. Okay. So then you have your standard kitchen knife, which is also a flat grind, but you'll see how thin the knife is. It gives you a much different geometry, which is what we're going to talk about here in a minute. So again, flat ground, very thin cross-sectional area. Another version, my dad really liked the Japanese stuff, and I inherited that. So what looks like a very long flat grind, but a very thin cross-sectional area. And almost everybody has a paring knife of one kind or another, and 9 times out of 10 they're flat ground, and again a very thin cross-sectional area. What's the difference? Well, with a hollow grind, and you have this curvature, this is a cross-section, and then you're going to create a secondary bevel, and that secondary bevel is going to be a size and a shape that would give you the cutting area that you want. Now you notice with a wider thickness like the Bowie knife, you're going to have a lot more beef behind the edge. And look here on the hollow grind, you have very little beef compared to the flat grind. And then compare that to the Scandi grind, all of it is beef right behind the cutting edge. And then your kitchen knives, there's very little beef, but you're really wanting a sliced type of grind. So these variety of geometries for your knife grinds is going to give you the performance that you want. So tactical blades tend to be either hollow ground or flat grind, and then bush knives tend to be Scandi knives. Sometimes they are flat grind, sometimes they're hollow grind. The ones I make tend to be hollow ground. And then 99% of your kitchen knives, where you're going to do a lot of slicing, is all going to be your long, thin, flat grinds. And some surgical instruments also are going to be these long, thin, flat grinds. Next, we're going to talk about the variety of steels. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. I just want you to realize that stainless steel, semi-stainless steel, and high carbon. So the stainless steels, I have right here. This is your standard Dexter meat boning knife. This is a stainless steel, and they say that this one is S156HG. I don't know if that's a steel or the model name, but I can guarantee you it's a stainless steel. The thing about stainless steels is that they all have nickel. all of them have nickel. And nickel is abrasion resistant. So they're much harder to sharpen, they take more time, they take more energy because of the nickel. Unfortunately with nickel, it also reduces the hardenability of the steel, so you can't get it really as hard as you can with the semi-stainless and the high carbon. So it takes a good edge. It doesn't take a great edge, but it takes a good edge, very serviceable edge, and it's very safe to use in food preparation. You don't have to worry about it rusting. Not my favorite type of steel in general. Next is the D2, which is a semi-stainless. It's very high carbon, the highest carbon you can get, with chromium, but no nickel. So it doesn't have the hardness, it doesn't have the abrasion resistance that the stainless steel has, but it does have the corrosion resistance of the chromium. It's not a stainless steel, so if you get it in salt water or blood and you don't wipe it off or clean it off, it's going to oxidize. Some people call it rusting, some people call it a patina, whatever you want to call it. Semi-stainless steels like D2 are not going to bode well if you don't take care of them. And then there's the high carbon steels like O1 and A2, and there are more, but these are the two that I use. They are typically way easier to sharpen. They get plenty hard, but they don't have the chromium, they don't have the nickel. They do have molybdenum, they also have vanadium and some other great elements in them that make them really tough. These tend to be the type of steels you get with your bush type knives that you want to take a good edge. It's easy to sharpen in the field, and it's pretty strong, it's pretty durable. You can baton your way through branches and stuff like that, and you're not going to snap a blade. But they are easier to sharpen. They do not corrosion resist at all. You have to take very good care of them. I would say A2, it does have some chromium in it. I want to say 5%, I don't remember exactly. It's not a very high amount, and I do not classify it as a semi-stainless. It takes plenty of effort to take care of A2, so you do want to be cognizant of that. So when you're choosing a knife grind and a knife steel, you want to be careful about the relationship between the two. If you take a big, heavy cross-sectional area like this and you turn it into and you use a stainless steel to get there, you're going to have a difficult time sharpening that edge. The same is true with the bush knife and the Scandi grind. This is going to a lot of surface area to sharpen, and these stainless steels are going to be a real bugger. I generally use the O1 and the A2 for Scandi grinds. But for these thin blades that are very easy to sharpen because they're such a thin cross-sectional area, you can get away with it with stainless steel, no problem. With D2, the semi-stainless, I typically go with the hollow grinds. Although I've gone, with the full grind, it's still plenty hard to sharpen because it gets really hard. There's so much carbon in it. And the chromium also increases its hardenability. So it can be difficult to sharpen depending on how it's heat treated. And then the high carbon, again, you do have some kitchen knives. This is a kitchen knife with a high carbon steel. You can see the patina. This is made in Solon, Germany, by the way. Good knife. And then some of the Japanese knives are very much high carbon blades. You have that patina on them. And if you take good care of them, they're easy to sharpen. They work well in the kitchen. They hold a good edge. They're tough. So there's your 101. You choose what kind of angle you're going to grind in terms of knife sharpening on what type of blade geometry with what kind of steel. I'm not going to tell you that for you. There's lots of people out there who talk in terms of 23 degrees or whatever. I don't know. I can pretty much guarantee that these right here are about 12 degrees or 24 included, so each half is 12 and included is 24 degrees. That's kind of an average. It goes down to 15, goes up to 26, something like that, but about 24 is kind of average on the Scandi. But other than that, these other grinds are whatever gets sharp and whatever holds an edge the way you want it. If you want a knife that's really super durable, the closer you get to this axe-like cross-sectional area, the more durable your edge is going to be. The thinner your grind in your cross-sectional area, the finer your edge, the less durable your edge is going to be. That's why knives like this, typically you use a steel to straighten them up a little bit, and they work really well. The hollow grind, again, this has got very little material behind it. It takes a good edge. It holds it pretty well. It's not like your big, heavy flat grinds. Okay, so there you go. Knife sharpening 101, knife grinds and steels.